Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this video we are going to deeply cover about promises, async and awaiting JavaScript. So the promise is a special object by default which works asynchronously on code execution. A promise is like a commitment of providing data whenever it is requested by the consumer in the further program execution. Suppose if the promise commitment is done, then the status is marked as fulfilled, and if for some reason the promise get rejected, then another exception is thrown, and the status is marked as rejected. So most of the modern frameworks like React.js, AngularJS, so they use promises to update states asynchronously. So now I'll show you how you can create a promise. For that I'll declare a variable simple promise, and I have to create an object of the promise. So new promise. So the simple promise is the object of promise. Promise basically we need within the promise we need to as a constructor parameter we need to pass a function. Okay, and the function has a two arguments. It always has a two arguments, resolve and reject. And here we can declare here is a function body. So now what I'll use, if you want to pass any data, like if you want to return any data from this function or this from this promise, then you have to use resolve method. You have to pass the data within resolve method. So if you want to get this data, then you need to use promise object, then you have to call then method. Okay, so then basically gets the data from this promise, and here there is another function executor which you can through which you can access the data written from the promise. You can have you can chain multiple of this then methods. Okay, so for the example I'll use console. I'll just console log this. So the data high there can be accessed by this. So here you can see we are getting this output. You can also pass this to the multiple then methods here. Okay, for example, just return list. So now I'll run this. Okay, so here you can see we are getting the output here. So to understand clearly, I will take another example where I return a user object from a promise. So I'll just remove this. I'll just replace this with user promise. Okay. So here what we can do is I will create a variable designation as software developer. Okay. So now so if you want to return this object, then you have to just pass this within user info. Okay. So here, so this will be basically the same, but here what we'll do is we'll actually add the salary. Okay, so you see we haven't added the salary here, but in this then we want to we also want to add the salary. So what we'll do, so just add salary. So now if I refresh, you can see we are getting the object and also we are getting the salary. So you can use multiple of these then methods, and the output of each and every then methods gets carried out to the bottom. Okay. So now now if you want, if you see there is some exception has occurred here. Okay. So what you need to do? Suppose you want to throw error here. So the best thing of Promise is that the error handling is provided by default. So you see here there are two methods. First is resolve and reject. Now we know that what resolve does. It returns it returns the object and marks this promise as fulfilled. So basically there are three states in promises. First is pending, which means that the promise is not yet in execution. Then the second one is fulfilled, is that the promise has been completely done. It has successfully returned the data. And the third one is rejected, when there is an issue, or you want to raise some error, then you can use this reject method. So suppose for example, here I will just reject it with error no user with this name. Okay, so I just reject this. So now if I refresh and run, you can see that we have received an error here because we have passed this rejected function. So now if you want to handle this in a proper way, then what you can do is the promise comes with a comes with an instance method called catch, to catch the exceptions. So you can catch the exceptions here, catch, and you can just console log it. So if I go back, refresh again, you can see now the error gets to this particular method. Okay, so this doesn't execute because we have received an error here. So now if you want to pass extra arguments and from outside within this promise, then you can use a global variable, or you can create a function. That is also we are doing it. I'll show you now. So suppose consider there is a function add number. Okay, it takes two parameters. Basically this function will add two numbers, and for this we will use a promise, and now it will return a promise. So I will resolve by adding plus. I will create another method to use this. Okay, so not required, you can use it anyway also. For example, you don't need any method. Let me just use this one. Let me just use this function. So here this will return me a promise. Okay, so now if I just console log this, so now you can see the promise has been fulfilled. Okay, you see the promise result is 30. The promise state has marked as fulfilled. So go back, and if you just reject here, and if I refresh, you can see this the state has been rejected. Okay. So that's okay now. I'll make it to resolve. So now if you want to access this value, you can use then, and you can use cons. You can use a function here. So let me just use a string letter. So now we are getting the right output. So the next what it comes is if you want to, if you are always using this then method to get the information. Okay. So every time you are using this then to get the information. Suppose if you don't want to use as we know that the promise is asynchronous and you don't want to use this then there is another keyword that you can use, is await. Okay. So I'll just comment this. To use await, your function must be, you must use for the function you have to before you have to add async keyword. Okay. So let me quickly tell you what is async is. So basically async is a keyword so that you will be applying to a function. Okay, here we are using here you can use a normal function, for example like this async. This also you can do, or you can use an arrow function like this. Okay, so basically the async function, async keyword marks this particular show function as asynchronous. Okay, which you can able to handle asynchronous calls. So now, uh, by using asynchronous, then you will be able to use await. Okay, so now what is await? So let me just show you a simple example. Here is a result, and you see here is a add number. So now we know that this particular returns 30, but if you want to return this, we have to use then method. So if you don't want to use, you just want to wait and make this flow of this promise from asynchronous to synchronous. So then you must add a keyword await here. So basically, what happens is when the code execution encounters this and it sees that there is a await, so this waits for complete execution of this promise. Okay. If you don't use this, then the code will become asynchronous, and if you want your promise to be synchronous, then you have to use await keyword. So now just console log the output. I'm sorry, I'm just forgot to call this. So to use this await, you must compulsorily specify your function has async. So now if you don't specify this, then will get this error. Okay, the await is only valid in async functions and the top level body of models. So now, if you want to work with multiple promise, so here is simple two promises I have quickly created for you. That is the eat promise and sleep promise. Okay. So now I will create a function called init. Okay, consider this as a initialization function. So now if you have to use this promise eat dot then and then if you want to use this sleep promise, then you can use the same way. You can use same way multiple promises together. So now you can see you can explain eat and sleep. You can see first we have eat, then we understand that it is displaying eat. So what if I set a timer here and delay the execution? So I'll do that. So I'll do it for 500 milliseconds. Okay? So if I refresh this again, so now I can see first it is displaying sleep and then eating. So the code doesn't wait till here; it just jumps to the sleep. So now if you want to make the asynchronous, then you just need to add sync, and then you can use await here to both of these. So now if I run this, so now it is displaying synchronously. Even they have set a timer here. You can just set it to 1 second also. It will wait till 1 second till that particular promise gets executed. Then it will call this sleep promise. So now we look at certain static methods of promises. So the first method is Promise.all method. So I'll show an example here. Promise.all. Okay. So basically, this will take a iterable, which is an array. Okay. So here is a promise eat, and then sleep promise. Can use that then, and we'll see the output. We will also use here. We can also use a catch to catch any unexpected exceptions. Okay, so basically the all method waits till all of the promises are completed. When all the promises are completed, then the method, and then this particular then method is called. So completed means both the promise must be fulfilled. If any one of the promise gets rejected, then the catch method is called. So now you see, I'll remove this timer for now. I'll comment this. Okay, I'll go back to here. So basically, it returns me the array as per the placement, because it is for the it promises first, and it is displaying me first. So now we are getting this. So for example, if I try to reject here, if I use a reject function, then it will only display me sleeping where it will display in the error. Also add this. So even if one promise doesn't get executed, it shows it jumps to the catch method. So what if all the promise gets rejected? So it go if any promise the first any of the one, the first you can see the it has gone rejected. It doesn't go to the sleep promise. It directly goes to the catch method and shows you the error, and then so it is stopped till the it, because we have received the reject. We have rejected. We have written reject method, reject function. So now if I use resolve and delay the promise, and if I run this, you can see the basically the occurrence doesn't change. Before also it is displaying the eating first and then sleeping. Now also the output is the same. So basically the all method is a static method which works where if which only calls then method if all the promises are fulfilled. If any one of the promises get executed, uh, the execution stops there and catch method is called. So now there is another method which is called all settled method. Okay. So basically it checks whether all the promise has been completed or not. It doesn't check. It doesn't evaluate whether the promise is fulfilled or resolved. Even if it is even if it has received the error, then also it executes the then method. Okay. So for example, I'll show you the output now. But before that, I'll just resolve this. So if I run this, you can see it returns the array with each and every item as dictionary. There is a value called status which says it is fulfilled, and there is another value which is the output of the promise, that is eating. Okay. So now if I reject any one of this, suppose if I reject sleeping, so now also it will return me object, but instead of status Here they will be rejected, and instead of value there will be a reason. So now if I refresh this, this is fulfilled. Now the first one, you can see that there is no instead of value there is a reason. Okay, so the output which I have written from here will be displayed here. Okay, so the status is marked as rejected, so you can use it here also. Now suppose if all the promises get failed, so if all those two promises get failed, then it will return both things as both the things as rejected. And the next thing is there is any. So any method works basically if any one of the promise, or if you have given an array of promises here, if any one gets executed, then method is called. Okay. For example, here I have rejected this, and here the sleeping is resolved. Okay. Uh, so now if I run this, so now you see because the sleeping is resolved, only the resolved method is called here, sleeping. Okay, so it just calls the first one which has been successfully resolved. For example, if I resolve the eating promise, then first eating gets displayed. What if both the promises get rejected? In this case, it will show me, it will throw me actually an error which is aggregate error, which says that all the promises were rejected. So basically it just go if all the promises, if not any one of the promises has been successfully fulfilled, then it goes to catch method. Now okay, so say you don't want to create this all this you don't want to pass all this function with, and then you do resolve and reject. Okay. So there's also another static method which is called resolve. So here you can do that. You can use Promise.resolve. The same thing you can do with the sleep promise. And here if you just if I just run some, I'll just run the sleep promise and show you. So you can see that still you can display sleeping, and you can also use reject. So this will just display you the error, which of course you can handle in this catch method. So now you got to know how to use promises, and how to execute them, and how to get the data from them. So now the reason is why and when you have to use promises. So basically the main reason of promise was they were created as a replacement for callback functions. However, let me tell you, they are not complete replacement of callback functions. Callback functions are still used, which I'll discuss later in this tutorial. So the main advantage of using promise was the error control was available by out of the box in promises. Like you have seen the catch method, which is used for error control. So now there is, apart from these things, there is a promise. They are by default they are asynchronous. So but there is also option for us to make this promises synchronous. And if you want to use the promises, there are some cases which I am going to which I think are possible to implement promises. uh, so the first thing, what is the it makes is, if you use this, it makes error control more easily manageable, and you will not be in an unexpected situation where you will unexpectedly use any exception there. So if you also think that if there is a function that may behave asynchronous or synchronous in the future, so then the good thing chances is that it's better to implement promises there. And the next thing is, if you want your you have some data that needs to be computed, or you want the data that you want to process within the background, and then after processing you will notify to the user, like if you want to show some any alerts, any notifications or messages. So at that moment you can use promises. And also, what the apart from that, if you are getting data from external resources, if you are doing an Ajax call or any other API request from the different server, so that moment also you can use promises. So now, if you are the last thing is, suppose you see there is a task that is not that important, and if you and you don't want to evaluate immediately, you want the system or the code to evaluate in later or further execution of the code, then you can consider using promises. Apart from the work, apart from the working and the usage of the why you should use the promises and where you can use it, there are also certain reasons which I find important where you must prefer using callbacks instead of promises. The first thing is cross-browser compatibility. If you are building, if you are actually working on a legacy web, if you want your app to run on a browser such as Internet Explorer, okay, so then you need to reconsider your choice because Promise support has still not been added. So, but there are also polyfills available like Promisify, which helps you to implement Promise functionality within Internet Explorer. So all the information I have added into my website post. I have provided the link to the description in the comment box, the description. You can go and check out. And the next reason what I think is the performance issue. These promises, when called, they actually don't execute instantly. They actually store in the memory, and whenever there is a available time, the CPU executes them. If you have a complex module, and if you are creating a lot of promises, that may that may actually take a lot of memory usage and may affect your performance. And the third thing is, if you want your code to be synchronous everywhere. Suppose if all the things must be done as asynchronously, and you don't want any asynchronous code in your project, then you can just go for callbacks instead of promises. So this was all about promises, async and await. I hope you like my video, more informative and helpful. If there is anything that I needs to add or that needs to be implemented, you can just let me know in the comment. Just help me improve my videos like this. And if you like my video, then I request you to subscribe my channel for videos like this. That will motivate and help me a lot. Uh, Thank you for watching my channel. See you next time. Thank you. Bye.